This is our community's house. We are all guests in it here to serve our community. My name is Mike Little, Mayor of the District of North Vancouver, and the pleasure falls to me to welcome you all here to our regular meeting of council for Monday, October 7th at 7 o'clock. We'd like to start our meeting off in a good way, and so Councillor Murray has volunteered to offer our land acknowledgement. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Little. We respectfully acknowledge the original people of these lands and waters, specifically the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam, on whose unceded ancestral lands the District of North Vancouver is located. We value the opportunity to learn, share, and serve our community on these unceded lands.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murray. Okay. This evening we have an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions from the agenda as presented, Council? Hearing none. Moved by Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder on the matter? Seconded by Councillor Mott. Call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Council, we have no sets of minutes for this evening's meeting. We set aside a period of time up to 30 minutes at the front end of every regular council meeting to hear issues of concern from our community. And we do have a list of people who have signed up ahead of the council meeting. And we have 2 speakers that have signed up so far. So there should be opportunity if other people wish to add their comments to the 2 initial speakers. So we have Faris El-Khalil here. Welcome. If you can come on up and make yourself comfortable here, we'll either works. All right. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Great. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. My name is Faris El-Khalil, and I live in the wonderful area of North Vancouver, in particular, Pemberton Heights neighborhood. I've been there for 13 years. I've got a lovely wife and 3 boys. They go to Capilano as well as Carson, Graham, and I'm basically been around that neighborhood, built a great community with our people out there. I believe that one of the items we're talking about today might be the first item, which is about 1250 West Keith Road. I bought the property with my brother 3.5 years ago with the intention of splitting the property and both of us building a house on each side to become a closer family and stay in the community that we love. I will tell you right now, I know nothing about development, nor do I know anything about building. So this is all very new to me. I've been asking people behind me here, and it's just so it's nothing. It's all very new. Aside from the dream and all the different things, I do believe that there is actual benefit. They're positive to our community in building and rezoning this property. I've listed some here. Number one, the property fits the neighborhood. It maintains existing lot pattern, 7,500 on each side or so, preserving the neighborhood character. That's key for us. Obviously, I live in the community. More housing options, create 2 small lots for obviously to meet the demand of smaller homes and improving housing diversity and affordability. And then I mentioned earlier, it's close to schools. My kids attend there. It's a great family neighborhood. Number 4, improvement to the neighborhood. So anything new that's built enhances obviously the appearance and the value surrounding the area. 5, energy efficiency. New homes, obviously, if they're built, our architects tell us that they have to meet the modern energy standards and obviously contributing to the state sustainability goals. And then last but not least, obviously, is tree management. Things like appropriate planting and compensation for anything that's been taken down. So I want to thank all of you for letting me speak today and give me the opportunity to come out here. Hope that we can work together and moving forward on an application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Faris El-Khalil. Okay. And unfortunately, the Zoom system's not on for me yet. So, Clerk, if you can manage that, be appreciated. We have the next speaker is joining us virtually. It's Hazen Colbert. Okay, we're going to move him over as a panelist. Great, fantastic.
Mayor Little and Council, I am unmuted and I am a panelist, and I believe you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Little. As I address this council meeting and I see that Mr. Milburn is there, he can perhaps confirm a specific location that I am now going to reference using. I'm going to use GeoWeb to reference it. I am not going to share my screen because it seems to take a great deal of time. What I want to reference is something that I have seen over probably the last 2 weeks on Lynn Valley Road between Mountain Highway and Institute Road on what I call the northwest side of the road, which is actually, for those that don't know this, Lynn Valley Road there is actually a little bit of a bridge that crosses over a creek that flows through Pioneer Park. Anyone that goes onto GeoWeb will find that. That Pioneer Park is a District of North Vancouver property, and there is a fence between Pioneer Park, which is actually below grade, below the road level because the grade falls away. And along that fence for the last 2 weeks have been a number of children's shoes that have been tied to the fence with statements on pieces of paper that are protected by plastic, stating that the shoes represent the shoe sizes of the children that have gone missing from residential schools in the District of North Vancouver. And I speak about this tonight because I drove by it not even an hour ago as I was coming home using East 29th, and I passed the western parking lot of District Hall, Mayor Little, where I saw your interesting truck, which is smaller than my left leg, parked there. I went over to Lynn Valley Road, drove it down it, and I saw these signs, which are posted on a District of North Vancouver fence. So this is Pioneer Park is a District of North Vancouver property. These signs and these shoes are on District North Vancouver fence. I think that it is completely inappropriate that a public fence is used for false information. To the best of my knowledge, there have been no residential school children that have gone missing and been found murdered and placed in graves. And I think that these signs and these shoes must be removed.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you. And I actually, because I've switched screens, I can't tell if I've got any time left. Mr. Milburn is really good with the GeoWeb, okay? I got to tell you, he's really good. He knows exactly the location I'm talking about. So this is a public space, and I don't think the District of North Vancouver supports this type of information, and I think it needs to come down.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, would anybody else like to address council this evening? Yes, welcome. Come on up. When you're comfortable, if you could provide us your name and approximate address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Yes, I'm Ann Mason, and I live at 1240 West Keith Road. Probably no more person impacted by redevelopment than myself because it'll be right next door to me. And surprisingly enough, I am not in favor of a subdivision of a lot that size. Where my concerns come in is what goes on in that smaller lot in terms of its development and perhaps over densification and occupation. So Sweet Lane House, all of a sudden you've gotten from a large lot that is now has 2 lovely homes on it. But if you have all these people, you have lanes, you have congestion, you have that intersection of the lane to where it would feed into the property. And I just think in the deliberation, in getting to yes, and bringing about good development for the neighborhood, how much is reasonable in terms of the development on now 2 lots or just one, because most houses have 2 cars and that type of thing. And all of a sudden we have the potentiality for 6 cars. And so where do they go? And backing out into lane that the people walk to school. So it's just a consideration in good planning of how to develop the property with common sense. So that's for the neighbor, but as opposed to the subdivision, I'm not opposed to that.
Thank you for your comments, Ann Mace. Would anybody else like to address the council meeting? Okay, I see no other speakers, so we're going to move on with this evening's agenda. Council, I have, I'm going to propose, actually, sorry, let's do the delegation first. But I would like you to look into your agendas and consider items 8.2 and 8.4 for consent, but I'll get back to that when we get back to item 8 on the agenda. So at this point, we're going to call on the delegation and welcome the delegation up to the desk here. So just as a description of we obviously just had the public input period where people can come and talk about anything they want to. We decided to create an extra longer time, so you have up to 5 minutes to make your presentation to the delegation. Plus, there is an opportunity for council to ask clarifying questions at the tail end of the delegation. It's an opportunity to give interested parties in your community a little bit more time with council. And so that's what we're going to do right now. Welcome. You have 5 minutes to address the council.
My name is Tobias Jesso. I live on From Road in the district of North Vancouver. And I think, well, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. And I'd like to thank your worship for allowing us to speak today, and councilors for spending time to address our concerns to council regarding the future of fun on the North Shore, inspired by the mountains and the river.
Fantastic. It happens to be our motto.
What can the district do that will bring generations together, like the old and the young, and engage in a fun sport, improve the well-being, emotional and physical of folks, and do that in the beautiful environment that we have on the North Shore? That's what disc golf can bring to the North Shore. Is it F5, I guess? Yeah. Picture an exciting and essential addition to the local recreation offerings that we span in the district of North Vancouver that suits all ages and all abilities, and that's fun and healthy and accessible. As a personal anecdote, you know, I've coached soccer for years. I've coached baseball for years. I've played many sports, but not a lot with my family. But disc golf, I got everybody out, from the grandchild to myself, and we could play around a disc golf. It's just an accessible, easy sport for a family to learn and do right off the get-go. And to have a facility in the district, which is an outlier, I think, in the municipalities in the area, to have a disc golf course, I think, is a win-win for everybody. It's a fast-growing sport. It's played similarly to golf rules. There's minimal equipment. We need a course on the North Shore, a decent sized course. We're driving to Legacy and Squamish, which has a beautiful course. We're driving out to Raptors Knoll to play a decent sized course. And we have a lot of really excellent players on the North Shore, and we just don't have the facility or the course to be able to meet the needs of that group. Our courses that exist on the North Shore in the city, for example, at Eastview and at Rockridge, they're, you know, at capacity. There's a lot of play in those areas, and so we think there's a need for a much larger venue and a better course on the North Shore. We're starting our fundraising. We started a society. We're now official society, and we've signed up 185 members in 2 months to our North Shore Disc Golf Association. We want to teach the sport to others. We want to have fun evenings for seniors and other groups, and we want to maintain the courses on the North Shore. The district is G Verde's outdoor playground, from the rivers to the sea, and for the mountains and the rivers. We think that we'd have a great opportunity in the district for a nice disc golf course. So we want to have fun together. Finland has been voted the last 7 years in a row the happiest place on earth. Finland has also the highest number of disc golf courses per capita in the world. So please vote yes to fun.
Thanks, Toby. My name is Darren Butler. I'm here today representing the North Shore Disc Golf Association. I just want to thank council members and Mayor Little for having us today. Councillor Back for bringing the agenda item forward, and Councillor Hanson for getting out for a round of disc golf. We are here today to ask for the consideration of an 18-hole disc golf course in the district of North Vancouver. There are a couple courses that do exist on the North Shore. They are quite small in nature. They're a pitch and putt, mini golf, if you would, with all due respect to everybody on the course, and who's been involved in the creation and maintenance of those courses. Experienced discers are generally just throwing putters on these courses, and a putter would be a disc that we would use to loft into the basket, just like you would a putter on a ball golf course. There's no 18-hole course within a 50-kilometer radius. As Toby suggests, we have to drive to Squamish, Whistler, Langley, Chilliwack. We've got the fastest growing sport in the world. We've got hundreds of people engaged in it in the district of North Vancouver. It's accessible, it's available, super low barrier to entry, and anyone of any age and any experience can experience this wonderful sport. We know recreation is vital to the culture of District of North Vancouver, to our community and the guests, and we hope that the District of North Vancouver could consider exploring the possibility of an 18-hole disc golf course. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I was going to ask, I have played disc golf before. What kind of average hole lengths are you looking for? I mean, obviously with a golf course, you're trying to be 300 yards out. What kind of distances are you talking about between holes?
The general range, and it's kind of a funny sport because we're classic Canadians, we're trick, but we use a bit of imperial. 200 to 400 feet is kind of an average that people look for. There are some holes that are a little bit shorter. There are some holes that get a little bit longer. Most holes on a disc golf course are par threes. Sometimes when they extend beyond that, they can turn into par fours, even sometimes par fives. But that would be kind of an average range, but it would be great if we could push that. We're in a very centrally located in the lower mainland. There's an opportunity to really champion this and build a jewel of a course that would be a real vital part of our community and the guests of the community.
So a football field in length per hole that's probably going to be what's picking your suitable sites, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, to really complement what's out there and satisfy the needs of the experienced disc golfers on the shore, but also the up and comers. There are some people who are athletic. They like to get out there. They can throw a disc. They can learn to throw it farther. The neat thing about discs is you can bend them right and bend them left and get them to go straight. And that's something that you can't do with a golf ball and a golf club. They're generally
Something I do with a golf ball all the time.
Yeah, well, this is it.
I hope I sliced.
Purpose,
That was
right?
it.
So there's a way to have a lot of creativity within these courses, islands, tunnels. The best courses have a variety of some open shots, some tunnel shots, some corner shots. But the biggest thing is that, we're real stewards of the land and we love to connect with the land. And I think there's a real opportunity for the district to be able to connect with the land, connect with the community, allow some of the elders, allow some of the kids, and allow the athletic enthusiasts to have a sport that they can pursue. Really low barrier to entry, low costs associated with it. It's a real win for activity on the North Shore.
It does appear to be a bit of a gap in the corporate memory around here on it, but I remember doing a disc golf course in Princess Park in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right where the Mirar art piece is, right next to the river there. That was the end and start of a hole right in there. And I remember that from the 90s. And but we apparently never authorized it, whatever it was that was in there.
And it's interesting you should say this because disc golf does have a long history. There's a course that's been in Campbell River for 40 years. Disc golf almost mirrors identically a timeline of mountain biking. And we're going through a lot of the challenges that we faced with mountain biking in the past, not recognized trails, not recognized areas. And so having these facilities to accommodate the users, giving the people a place to play will allow us to centralize it. It'll allow us to get together, to build community, to have events, and also know where people are discing instead of having, someone throwing discs in this park or that park.
And I also think that the forest and the rivers and everything we talk about as being beautiful about the district that we live in would lend a very unique and special opportunity for a course that could be world renowned if it's done properly.
Councillor Pope, you're first up. Can I ask you to move receipt of the delegation? Thank you. Councillor Bax, can you second? Thank you. Councillor Pope, your comments, please. Is your microphone directly on there? Get aimed at you there. Thank you.
Thanks very much for your presentation. I actually, disc golf was not even something I knew about at all until I started talking to my handyman, Ethel,
Oh,
who I understand is part of your.
it's part of the.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm really interested in this idea because I love how low barrier to entry it is. And I love that it gets families out into the forests and the woods and just outside in general. And I think as we, came out of COVID, we realized that's what everybody wanted to do more and more was to get outside and connect with each other. And you don't have to be an athlete to do it, right?
Right.
So I really want you to take me out sometime so I can try it out
Great.
because I really have no concept. And I was quite gobsmacked that you had said, is it really the size of a football field
And how
per?
far can you throw?
No, they're not. No, it's just I think there was a distance.
Yeah.
Reference. Each hole isn't that wide. They're
Okay.
not
100 meters is 300 feet. They said 200 to 400 feet. That's all.
Yeah.
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 Be a lot of space.
I mean, you'd be able to put in a few different holes with a proper design in that type of a space.
Yeah.
And with your society, would you expect that there would be a lot of volunteer maintenance of that kind of thing that?
There already is maintenance days that go on in existing parks, so you can absolutely expect the local disc golf community and the association to contribute to maintenance, stewardship, etiquette, and cleanup days in the
Yes.
park. I mean, they are as a whole, the discers, if you would, very much appreciate the outdoors. They appreciate the space that they have, so it's generally a very clean crew, cleans up after themselves. I have to bring home. There's not a lot of garbage out there, but I have to bring home more than I don't take any, leave any out there, but I usually bring some
Yeah.
home. So
That's wonderful because we see that with so many of the other sports communities now, like the pickleball people and others really taking responsibility for their own members and their own.
that's a big part of
community.
us forming the association.
Yeah.
Because what it does is it allows us to get everyone to sign into a code of conduct, adhere to a code of conduct, and recognize and understand that we're stewards for the sport, but we're also ambassadors in our community, and it's a really important part of the package.
And we just did a project with Rockridge School and the school district there. Rockridge, they have a course at Rockridge
In West
School.
Town.
And so we, in association with the administration there at the school and the school district, we did a program of adding some baskets to this golf course and improving that course just over the summer.
You funded the baskets?
We brought the baskets, we did, yes, all of the work. So that was the North Shore Disc Golf Association.
But we are asking you to do the baskets on this one.
And I just have to say, as a pickleball fanatic, as members of my fellow members of council know, I really have to take exception with the fastest growing sport in the world stat because it's just not.
Here's another parallel is you look at the stats, and pickleball and disc golf are very close. But here's another stat for you. Is in this presentation that Toby shared with you, there's actually a wonderful report in the end, the UDisc stats. There's stats from all over the world. And one of the things that is really important to consider with an 18-hole disc golf course is it takes an average discer about 1 hour to play 9 holes. So you're about 2 hours to play 18 holes. And just like ball golf, you can, it's standard to make a card or a group of 4. So you can have over 70 people on a course every 2 hours. Pickleball, you can have 4, 8, how many we've gone through there, right? So it's not really a comparison. Like it is another fast-growing sport, but we don't require, a different type of space, but we can accommodate a lot of people.
Totally not competing with each other.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Thank you.
And we'd love to take you disc golfing. So
Yeah.
thanks for offering
Whole
to,
disc golf
head out.
battle here.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
You're already engaged with tenants.
Yeah.
You're good. Yeah. Councillor Beck.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you very much for coming tonight and presenting. It's great to hear more about the popularity of your sport, and I'm glad that you formed the association. It's not a coincidence that I brought this report forward tonight about creating, or at least looking at the creation of a facility in the district. I had the report drafted for a while, so it's nice to be able to have it at the same time as your presentation. I just wanted to ask a little bit about potential conflicts with other park users, and how do you deal with that? Because we're going to be looking at an area that's, you know, potentially already used by other user groups, whether it's hikers or dog walkers or mountain bikers. So if you have any suggestions for the best ways to try to mitigate any potential conflicts?
I think it's a fairly, it's not an uncommon problem.
No.
Whether it's disc golf or pickleball or mountain biking.
Yeah.
It is, I think, not an uncommon problem that you have to wrestle with at the district to make sure everybody keeps the peace. But as an official association, and with the disc golf rules and etiquette that we want to promote, we will be self-policing, if you will, within the organization and educating people to the proper etiquette. We do that on our website. We'll do that on every opportunity that we can have. We know that it only exists if it's done in the right manner by the citizens who are using the service. So we would like to keep it, so we will do our best to make sure that it's done right.
This is also the reason why we're asking for a specific course. What it does is it allows us to identify the park as disc golf primary use, just like the mountain bike trails are mountain bike primary. You're welcome to run, you're welcome to hike, you're welcome to have your dog out there. We're happy to coexist. But some of the challenges happen when we are trying to coexist, and everyone's trying to be there. And if you want to know what I mean, go to Kilchanna Park in Vancouver. There's a disc golf course there, and I'll never play it because there's so much potential for conflict. The discers themselves are super respectful. We don't throw discs at anyone ever, even if there's other discers on the next hole and it's a maybe, it's a no-go. We will not throw the discs. With having an official course, it allows us to have some proper signage to be able to educate other users who are coming to the park, coming to the facility, to expect to see flying discs. But this is also why it's important to have a proper design. Because when you do have those proper designs, you can lay out the course in a manner that you have throughways for people to be able to walk through the park, walk past the park, and through our association and a dedicated course, we believe we could mitigate and minimize those conflicts.
That's great. Thank you. And I think the association will certainly help that, being able to, you know, teach that etiquette as people, you know, start to get into the sport. Lots more points because we're going to have a discussion later in the agenda, but thank you very much for being here.
Cool. Thanks for the opportunity.
The report, great. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Ma.
Thank you. I haven't played disc golf, but I did play Ultimate for a few years. Some of my questions have already been answered in terms of how long it takes and how do you manage people coming on or conflicts. Just curious, like, to get more people through it, is it normal etiquette to start in the first hole, or do you allow shotgun start so someone can jump ahead a couple holes so they can get on the course before?
Yeah, it would be considered normal etiquette to start at the first hole. Some of the courses are designed that way, and you would just wait. There are some courses where it would be inappropriate to jump ahead, but if you had an event, if there was a lot of people at the course, like generally speaking, people don't mind going to another hole, or if there's an event, it would be very common to have a shotgun start so that you don't have a large queue. Some course designs would have, say, a front 9 and a back 9 that would start from the same spot. So if hole 1 is occupied and there's some people there, some people could start on hole 10, go do this 9, then go do this 9.
Yeah. You talked about tunnels and other features. So similar to a golf course, you're looking for a very specifically designed course.
We are asking for the district to explore a possibility of a 18-hole purpose-built disc golf course.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hanson, your comments.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tobias and Darren. I had the privilege a couple of weeks ago of going out with Richard, who's here, and Logan, who's here, and to the Eastview Park. Really enjoyed it as far as I was concerned. First time I'd ever done it. As far as I was concerned, perfect activity. We were in nature in a beautiful setting. Companionship couldn't have been better given it was Richard and Logan. We were able to communicate and chat, and I wasn't any good at all. Logan happens to be a champion, so that was something to note here in the district. We have our very own champion. I just thought it was a wonderful activity. I could see the potential in the district of having a really world-class facility, given the land that we have. And it also struck me looking at the amenity involved in disc golf, that it didn't look very expensive. Assuming that you had the land, it seemed to me this was something we could achieve relatively low budget compared to swimming pools and artificial turf fields and wastewater treatment plants, just to use an example.
You're all being so nice.
So that was my experience. My experience, really enjoyed it, and I do look forward to further discussion and giving serious consideration for the a place of disc golf in the district. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I think the wastewater treatment plant does have a green space and trail around it, so you can see if that's appropriate, but I don't see any further speakers at this time. Receipt's been moved and seconded. Prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried and delegation is received. Thank you so much for your presentation here today, and you're welcome to stick around through till the later discussion, but you're also welcome to go. That's fine too, your choice. But
Thanks so much for the opportunity and the time.
Thank you.
Super grateful for the opportunity.
okay. All right, council, as I said just before that item, as we get into reports, item 8, I'd like to propose that items 8.2 and 8.4 be considered for consent. Would anybody like to pull either of those items out of a consent agenda?
8.2 and 8.4.
That's correct.
Is there discussion?
There's a reason to pull 8.3, yes. So 8.3 can't be. Yeah. Okay. Seconded. Okay, I'll call the question on the consent agenda, which is items 8.2 and 8.4. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. So if you came for items 8.2 and 8.4, this is the liquor license at Holiday Inn and the Museum and Archives deaccessioning, then those items have just passed. And we'll move on with the rest of the agenda at this point. So moving on to item 8.1, bylaws 8670, rezoning to enable a 2-lot subdivision at 1250 West Keith Road. Look to staff, Mr. Varys, for your comment.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Darren Veers, and I'm a senior development planner in the development planning department. Before you this evening is an application to amend the zoning bylaw to enable a 2-lot subdivision at 1250 West Keith Road. The subject site is a large lot located on the north side of West Keith Road between Bridgman Avenue and Pemberton Avenue. It is zoned single-family residential Pemberton Heights and is approximately 100 feet wide and 15,000 square feet in area. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the subject site into 2 new 50-foot wide lots. The proposed new lots meet the minimum lot width and lot depth requirements of the Pemberton Heights zone, but fall short of the minimum lot area requirements of 7,998 square feet by 490 square feet, or about 6%. Bylaw 8670 proposes an amendment to the special minimum lot size regulations in the zoning bylaw to establish specific minimum lot size regulations for the proposed lots, to allow for a new minimum lot area requirement of 7,504 square feet. The proposed new lot sizes are consistent with the existing lot pattern along the north side of the 1200 block of West Keith Road. Should council approve the zoning amendment to reduce the minimum lot size, the proposed subdivision plan would then be in compliance with the zoning bylaw and allow the district's approving officer to consider approval of the subdivision. Given the proposal's consistency with the prevailing lot pattern along the north side of the 1200 block, West Keith Road, and the relative minor nature of the amendment, Bylaw 8670 is recommended for first, second, and third readings. Thank you, and that concludes my introductions.
Thank you, Mr. Veers. The next, I have Councillor Ma. Do you have a motion?
Yes, I that recommendation give bylaw 8670 first, second, and third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Are you seconding the matter? Thank you. Councillor Ma, go ahead with your comments, please.
Thank you. As everyone knows, this subject property is in Pemberton Heights, where I have lived for 22 years. I know the owners, Ferris and Tony. I was also on the executive of the Pemberton Heights Community Association approximately about 3 years ago when this issue first came up. We as an executive did not have any issues with the subdivision application. Now that I'm on council, and that's the site looking from the back, now that I'm on council, I support increasing the housing supply through soft densification by allowing up to 3 dwelling units on a single family lot, or in this case, subdividing rather big lots. As you can see from the photo, the existing house is on one side. So when you subdivide, that house, after speaking with Ferris, is going to remain. We just had a presentation from Renewal Development a couple of weeks ago. There will be no waste coming from the existing home going to a landfill as a result of this subdivision and the building of a new home. This area of Pemberton Heights has many properties. This is on West Keith Road. They have many properties where there's one house on very big lots, and it's a very established family-oriented neighborhood that could evolve to accept more density. As Ferris said, he's not a big developer. Ferris and Tony have worked hard, purchased a property with the hope of building a second home for an extended family. I would really like council to allow such owners to build a triplex or something like that, but we'll leave that for another discussion. But for now, I support the staff recommendation to give the bylaw first, second, and third reading. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Ma. Next speaker is Councillor Hanson. Your comments, please.
Thank you very much. Very pleased to support this rezoning to allow this very large single family lot to be divided into 2 lots. It will result in a potential for 6 units, 2 homes plus 2 basement suites and 2 coach houses. The variance requested is relatively modest. As has been mentioned by staff, the lots meet the minimum width and depth requirements, but are approximately 500 square feet short of the minimum lot area. I have visited the site. I've read the public input included with the materials. I know that there is some division amongst the neighborhood on the issue. But from my point of view, I see very little benefit in retaining one very large lot of this type. It would only lead to the construction of one very large home. I do note that the proposal calls for the removal of 10 trees and the planting of 7 trees. And I'm sensitive to that. It's interesting that even this modest densification has this type of tree impact, and we're going to be talking about trees later in the meeting. And I hope that going forward, we are sensitive to that issue as we consider densification. But I don't see any alternatives for that in this case. It seems like the most reasoned way forward with respect to this site, and I'm pleased to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Murray.
Thank you. Just through to staff or to the applicant, is the plan to put 6 or 3 units on each side, or is the house being retained and then the other lot is being sold? Or I'm not sure who can answer that question.
Yes, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Murray, I understand that the plan is to put 3 units on each of the properties: a coach house, secondary suite, and principal dwelling.
And then is this the existing house on one side? Is that being renovated and then there's a suite and then a coach house being added, or is that being moved, or what's happening to that one?
At this point, we're just
You just
I'm
need
gonna
to come
you
to the
up
counter.
microphone. Thank you.
Sorry, the process has been longer than expected. So at this point, we just had it just renovated and sitting there until we get approval, obviously. But
So
it's
is
just-
that going to be an existing house though?
It's existing, it's rented until we get approval and then we go through kind of the whole permitting process and then get some cash to build later on. It will probably last another year, year and a half, and then we'll take it out. But for now, we're just going to keep it there.
So you're going to take it out as demolish it or you're going
Demolish. Yeah, we're going to demolish it.
to? Okay.
Yeah, that's the original plan that we put forward to our people of Froze and Darren.
Okay, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks.
So for those that are concerned about this density increase, this is, consistent with the existing lot pattern in the neighborhood. But we have been mandated by the provincial government to allow more units on all single-family properties in the district of North Vancouver. And the provincial government has actually also said that every municipality in this province needs to take more density in an effort to solve the affordable housing issue. There's a lot of debate in regards to whether or not that is going to do it. My position is density, supply and demand doesn't necessarily bring house prices down, especially when location is always how the market drives up prices. And we're in a pretty nice location. So I would say that this entire community, under our existing, this new legislation that's been told that we have to do this, we haven't had no choice in this regard. So we've had to do this. We've had to take the minimum number of units that was presented to us by the provincial government, and this municipality chose to choose 3. So that would be a basement suite and a carriage house. My understanding of the cost of carriage houses is anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 in this municipality. So not a lot of people can afford it. Redeveloping and putting a suite in makes a lot of sense when you're rebuilding. But I would say for those that are concerned about this, don't be concerned just about this one issue. Be concerned about, the impact to neighborhoods throughout this municipality. This municipality, 100 years ago when it was first beginning to develop, was built on sprawl because land was cheap in the district. And so people went out into the hinterlands to build. And that is a very expensive form of development, and it's very costly to service. And those are some of the challenges that municipalities are facing, the cost of the infrastructure. We talk about the sewage treatment plant tonight, and it's a huge cost. All projects are in the billions now, no longer in the hundreds of millions or tens of millions. So we've got a lot on our plate. And but when you look, when I look at this one size or this one lot, I too think it's a minor variance that we're asking. It is consistent with the existing lot pattern. So I don't really have opposition to the subdivision, but I would say if people are concerned about density and what that does to your neighborhoods, the issue is that it applies to the entire area. It applies to the entire province, not just to one street with one lot on it. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Beck.
Just a question through to staff. When did the applicant first start the process, the subdivision process here in this case? I know some of the feedback from the public goes back to February 2023.
Mr. Beers, do you have that number on hand?
Yes, Your Worship. A preliminary application was first submitted in 2021 for this proposal, and a complete detailed application was submitted November 25th, 2022.
Thank you. So I just wanted to highlight the process that this applicant has been involved in to date has been over 3 years long for a relatively minor variance here. I think I'll certainly be supporting it. I think that 2 homes with suites and coach houses is going to create a lot more housing diversity than what's currently on the site. And I think this is exactly the kind of development that makes sense in so many neighborhoods across the district. So I tend to take a little different position than some of my council colleagues on the housing legislation that the province is bringing forward to us. I see it as an opportunity to hopefully speed up some of these processes so it doesn't take somebody 3.5 years just to get to this point, which is still a long ways from any sort of construction. So just want to empathize that this has been a long haul for this applicant so far. So hopefully we can help move things along tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I see no further speakers on the matter, so I'm prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Okay, item 2, if you weren't here earlier, item 2 was passed in consent. So moving on to item 3, and I know I have a comment from a member of council on item 8.3.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll be recusing myself from this particular item, declaring a conflict in that my kids attend R&B dance. So be recusing myself.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll get back in touch with you if you're just going to be in the committee room. We'll bring you back out when we're prepared to, when we're complete this item. Is there any comment from staff on the matter? Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Murray. I'm happy to second. Would anybody else like to discuss the matter? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Mr. Veers, can you let Councillor back know that he can come back out as we move along? Item 8.4 is has been passed by consent at the beginning of the meeting. The next item up for discussion is a council-led report. This is on the protection of urban tree canopy in the district. Councillors Murray and Hansen. Which one of you would like to be a mover on the report? Councillor Murray, Councillor Hansen's pointing to you. So I think Councillor Murray is the mover and Councillor Hansen is the second. Councillor Murray, your comments, please.
Thank you, Mayor Little. So I bring this forward because, you know, over the years, as development has increased, the urban tree canopy has been declining. Metro did a report from 2014 to 2020 in regards to the decline of the urban tree canopy within the urban containment boundary and outside of it. And there is discussion about updating that report given the recent legislation that's been applied to the province and the region, which were part of my comments on the previous item. And I will say actually at the UBCM, our motion in regards to stormwater management and having more legislative tools in order to regulate and address the issues of stormwater off of hard services was passed unanimously by the members at the convention. And we have the same concerns with that report as we do with this one, that the loss of trees being able to work for our communities in regards to absorbing that water that comes so intensely at different times is critically important. With the legislation, and as I pointed out, we have gone in the direction of 3 units. But we have seen a lot of redevelopment in the municipality over the years, especially in the Upper Capilano, Upper Lonsdale area, a significant amount of redevelopment, going from ranchers that were built in the 1950s to redevelopment where you're going from a 1,500 or 2,000 square foot rancher and replacing it in some cases with houses that are 10,000 square feet and above, because the lot allows that size of a house. Full basements being developed lot line to lot line, taking out that natural flora and fauna in the neighborhoods because they want to be able to accommodate full basements, full height ceilings, and impacting the tree canopy within the community. So it continues to be a concern. We've seen a lot of outrage in the community when we lose big stands, especially big firs and cedars that sit in the middle of a lot and that are cut down because somebody bought the lot. Now they want to redevelop. We've also seen a huge amount of, it used to be a big yard and a small house. Now it's a huge house and a very small yard, if any. And many of the new properties that are being built, the surface is, it doesn't allow drainage. It's not sinking into the ground like a lawn. The rain will sink in, go into the groundwater. This water is running off the surface of these new properties being built and developed and going into the storm. And that is creating intensity on our infrastructure. You know, to the point where we live on a mountain, so, you know, mud and dirt from construction sites runs down the hill. Well, that mud and dirt goes into the storm sewer and over time begins to eat away at the linings of the pipes. And that's a concern for replacement. So there's so many things that trees do other than allow wildlife to be able to use it, provide shade. There was a report done for Metro Vancouver Parks Committee where they looked at the time during the heat dome. And if you looked at Vancouver, on the west side of Vancouver, you could look at Mount Pleasant and then you could look at Kitsilano. And Mount Pleasant is very developed, a lot of hard surface, a lot of cement, a lot of pavement, a lot of buildings. And then Kitsilano is more conducive to the kind of neighborhoods we're used to in the district. And the colors were orange and red in Mount Pleasant and yellow and green in Kits. And so that cooling effect on trees is very important, especially for places that don't have air conditioning, et cetera, and the ability for trees to cool neighborhoods for people to find refuge. So I think that we need to keep up with where Metro Vancouver is going. We can certainly use Metro's data. I see my time, and I'll take the second time. And I think we need to understand where we are in a baseline, what is coming down. We are developing. We continue to develop in the district. And now we have this increased legislation that is allowing 3 units to go ahead on each property. That may or may not happen. It could happen very slowly over the years. It could speed up in certain areas we don't know. But there is that impact of taking down these significant stands that have been around for a long time and have become part of our community, and not necessarily having them replaced as quickly as they're being taken down. Firs and cedars take decades to grow to the place that they are right now. We're replacing a lot of that tree canopy with street trees, and it just doesn't do the same kind of work that a 100-foot cedar does or a 100-foot Douglas fir does. So I think we need to come forward with some regulations. We need to understand where we're planting. Mayor Little, we're also taking down a huge number of trees. We talk about a football field. You know, we've had a football field. We had a football field cut out in Indian River illegally for some mountain bike trails. And they clear cut a vast area. We're losing trees through the looper moth. We're losing trees through climate change, and we're having to take them down. And, you know, it takes a while for them to grow back up and do the work that they've been doing for hundreds of years. So I look forward to support from council on this. And Jim and I have been talking about this for a while, and now we're here, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hanson, your comments, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. During my time on council, one of the things I've heard about so often is people's love of the tree cover in the district. Our green spaces and the amount of trees that we have, many have remarked to me that it's what makes our community special. They're part of what makes our community special. Makes our neighborhoods feel green and livable. During the last election too, it certainly was brought to my attention that certain changes in construction techniques and in attitudes towards building and densification in general have meant that a lot of trees have been removed. And if you remove one of these great big beautiful trees, and you have certain planting requirements, but something is lost. And of course, we also have the issue of climate change. Trees modulate temperatures, they provide shade, they provide beautiful spaces for people to enjoy, even if they're of modest means within our community. Councillor Murray talked about runoff and their effects on the water in our community. And as we go forward, I was struck, I read in advance of this meeting, the 2020 Regional Tree Canopy Cover Report of Metro Vancouver, which looked at the changes in tree canopy cover between 2020 and 2024. And I was struck out, even in that brief period of time, it's measurable in our district and across the region. We've lost tree canopy. So when the sun shines, it shines in that much more glare. There's less tree to absorb, and our communities just have less of that natural feel. More housing as we go forward, whatever position we have with respect to densification, more housing is going to mean less trees. And I think the point of this motion is for us to contemplate, are there strategies we can use to better protect trees, even if we are engaging in densification and adding more housing? Are there policy initiatives that can be used to better create new green spaces or plant trees in areas that perhaps are available to us for that purpose, so that we can tilt the balance back towards more tree cover instead of less? And are there benchmarks that can be brought forward to us on an ongoing basis so we know the status of our tree cover, so that it's not just a one directional a measurement, as it seems to be between 2020 and 2024, according to this study in our district and across the region. So very grateful to have worked with Councillor Murray on this. I do believe it's an important initiative. I do believe it's part of what makes our community special. And I think we will have broad public support for efforts to try to keep the district treed, green, and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Back, your comments, please.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Councillors Hanson and Murray, for bringing this report forward. I'm happy to support the motion. As summers get hotter, I think we can all appreciate the ever-increasing role that our urban tree canopy plays in providing a comfortable environment for all of us and any living beings in our community. And as we densify, there will be a need for more parkland, and protecting the parkland that we have, particularly in and around our town centers where the majority of densification is taking place. So very supportive of this work. I mean, when it comes to our tree bylaw, I think the district has one of the more strict ones in the region, and we can always look at ways to, make sure that that's doing its job to protect the trees that we want to protect. I also want to highlight that the city of North Vancouver has done a lot of great work with regards to tree canopy and their urban forest. Just trying to think of the name of it, the urban forest plan that they put out last year, and it highlights a number of best practices and recommendations. So I'm hopeful that our staff will work closely with the city and some of their work. No, very supportive of anything we can do to continue to make sure we have the sort of tree canopy that we're going to need as the climate continues to change. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it was a comment on it at the front end of the meeting, that our motto is Montes Revec Novus Inspirant. Maybe it could be Montes Revec Arboris Inspirant, because I think you're going to find it very hard to find someone in the district of North Vancouver who isn't inspired by our tree canopy. But, and here's the unpopular opinion, we are the biggest risk to a devastating catastrophic forest fire. And if you have trees in and around your houses, you increase the risk that a forest fire will be a house fire and that a house fire will be a forest fire. And so while I applaud the goal to retain trees throughout our community for all of the natural benefits that are self-evident in there, I do think that the right place for most of them is on our public lands. And we have 6 to 7 million trees protected in the North Shore forests and our parks. But when it comes to trees in and around houses, I want to make sure that we have policies that consider what it takes to be a fire smart community and make sure that we're not burdening someone with retaining a risk around their house when all of the professional experts say that's exactly where we should be reducing potential wood fuel from in order to be able to lessen the risk We have a number of neighborhoods in the district of North Vancouver that meet the test of intermixed fire zones, which basically means that the space between houses have so many trees in them that a forest fire would move through there without noticing a difference. And that has to be something that we have to keep an eye on. I've talked to the community up in Whistler because they went from being an absolutely every tree is sacred position to in 2017, they said, yeah, actually, we really need to become a fire smart community. And I asked the mayor and council what happened, what changed, what got your community inside. And they said, well, a forest fire got close to the village and it changed everybody's views on what we need to be doing to address that risk. I don't want to have to wait for our catastrophic fire to happen. And I believe our climatic conditions are going to lead us towards a catastrophic fire. So I'm very cautious when we bring in additional regulations to force the retention potentially of trees. Now, I will note that what this is saying is that it's prioritizing the replacement of trees, which means it's not going to lock down the existence of trees against somebody's will. I've read the report. I want to acknowledge that. I just think that whenever, people, we hold up our forest like it's the hero, like it's this wonderful thing, and that's awesome. But when Lytton happens, I would hope that we would have the safety measures in place, that we would have well thought out and pragmatic responses to protect both defensible space for our fire departments to be able to react. And if you have trees in and around your houses, the fire department will stay out on the street. They will not be going in and around the houses to fight the fires when we have that wilderness fire, because it's too high of a risk, and we'll pull them back. And so I just want us to always have this in mind when we are potentially locking down trees between houses. So I appreciate that this takes into account that replacement is something effective, and trees that smaller trees, more drought resistant trees would be a great addition. I just always want to remind people that they're our best friend until the day that they're not, and we need to make sure that we build defensible space and protect our firefighters as they do their jobs to keep us safe. So I will be supporting the motion. I just wanted to say that. Thank you. I see no further speakers on the matter at this time. Or Councillor Hanson, additional comments?
Yes, if I could, thank you very much. Just quickly, I do wish to emphasize it's not just trees on private property that are the subject of our concern. It's also public lands, and specifically in the Metro report, it was interesting because they identify the North Shore as an area where there is open space on public land that would potentially be available for planting. We could actually create forests instead of just denuding ourselves with forest, and those would not contribute to fire risk, but would instead bring these environmental benefits we're talking about. So just wanted to make it clear, it's a full picture of forestation, not just trees around homes.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else like to comment on the matter? Prepared to call the question? All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Council. Moving on to item 8.6. This is Councillor Back. This is your report. Assuming you'll be the mover of the report. Is somebody else willing to second the report?
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Pope. Councillor Back, your comments, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thanks again to our delegation from the North Shore Disc Golf Association for being here tonight and making the case for why disc golf is an activity that we should be looking to bring more of and providing more support for in the District of North Vancouver. Even though I thought the most fun place on earth was Disneyland, it's Finland, possibly because of disc golf. I started working on this motion a number of months ago by being introduced to the sport from several of my neighbors, in fact, who play disc golf regularly with their young kids. And that's something that speaks to me. I'm always looking at ways to help people connect, help build community connection. And I think this sport does that. And it appeals to me for a number of reasons. And not as a player, because I still need to get out and experience it. So please, I'd love to join that opportunity that my colleagues may be doing. But it appeals to me because of the wide variety of demographics that can play the sport. The fact that it is a low cost, almost no cost activity that requires just a few discs and those can be purchased at a fairly low cost, I believe, from what the research that I've done. And I think another big reason why the sport appeals to me is that courses can be designed in a sustainable way with fairly minimal disturbance to the natural areas. And I think that's really, as we've been talking about the tree canopy, our natural areas define the district of North Vancouver. And so having courses that, really blend nicely into some of those natural areas is an appeal to me for the sport. And I can start to envision what a course could potentially look like. I note this is a very fast growing sport, as was highlighted earlier, perhaps not as fast growing, and I want to preserve my relationship with Councillor Pope as pickleball. But I do believe that looking at an investment in disc golf could be a relatively small investment compared to some of the larger pieces of sport, infrastructure that we look to build in the district, whether it's turf fields or courts or what have you. And I think it really does align with the district's vision of being a vibrant, healthy, and inclusive community for all of its residents. And I think this is a sport that really is inclusive from what I understand of disc golf so far. So this recommendation is asking council to direct staff to report back on the current disc golf playing facilities that are available on the North Shore and options for constructing a new disc golf course in the district of North Vancouver. I do want to note that through the North Vancouver Recreation and Culture Commission, we are going to be receiving an assessment that looks at indoor and outdoor facilities across North Vancouver City and District. And that report is forthcoming in the next couple of months. So if I could amend the motion, what I would like to add is that any report that is approved tonight is informed by that assessment, which I think will be, as I say, coming back in the next couple of months. And that way we can really see how it fits into the bigger picture of facilities across the municipality. But I think the report's fairly self-explanatory. I still have a lot to learn about disc golf, but for all the reasons that I've stated here, I think it's something that we should look to support and create more opportunities for in the district of North Vancouver. Thank you.
So I think that additional comment isn't in collision with it at all. So if it's amenable to the seconder, then we'll make that change. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Pope. I believe you were the seconder on the matter.
Yes, thank
Yes,
you very
please.
much. Yes, I'm fully supportive of this. I think it's, as I've mentioned earlier, I think we're all finding ways to get outside and enjoy the great outdoors. And this is another one of them. And I love that it is such a low barrier and you don't need necessarily an athletic kid or parent or grandparent to get out there and do it. So I'm very interested in seeing what, staff come back with this report. In this report, though, I was really curious and just sort of flabbergasted by the park staff advising that it would cost $250,000 to $500,000 to construct, depending on the scope. That just seems like absolutely outrageous to me. And I wondered where that number came from.
Do we have a construction reference from another municipality or?
To your worship, Councillor Pope, I don't have that information. I do believe we have Stephanie Warner, Director of Parks, on the line, who did help provide that number.
I missed whom?
Stephanie Warner.
Okay, Ms. Warner, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm
do
here.
We
Can
have
you
a
hear
source? Yes, I can. Welcome you. Do we have a source for that construction range? Is that another municipality that experienced that, or have we come up with that number?
It's a high-level scan, just provided for the purposes of some context. And if this is referred back to staff for a deeper analysis, we'll refine that information. But these, and as we heard from the delegation earlier, these types of courses can be really broad in their scope. And so it depends on the location and the amenities and how much land work is required. And is it 9 holes or 18 holes? Like there's a lot of factors and variables. So following council's direction tonight, we will return with those numbers refined.
Yes, and I hope that we can keep in mind that as the delegation confirmed earlier tonight, that indeed the volunteers and the association would be willing to take on the role of maintenance and ongoing upgrading of these sites, et cetera, to some extent at least, which I believe was also factored into that shockingly high cost. But other than that, I am very much supportive of it and look forward to hearing more from staff about reporting back on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pope. Councillor Murray.
Well, thank you, Mayor Little. Of course, now that the delegation is over, I have two questions, and I was just wondering who wants to answer them. I just have a question for the
delegation.
Yeah, is that okay?
That's the nature of the question, but
And would be, have you, just come on up. Yeah, we need somebody at the mic. I'm just looking at this picture on page 98 of a disc golf, and I'm assuming it's on the cut at Grouse Mountain.
Yep.
Have you approached the mountains to see if there's an opportunity for a partnership?
Grouse Mountain currently has a disc golf course, and I've never golfed at it because it's a barrier. I can't get to it.
Right. Seymour?
Well, a couple things, gondola up to get up to Grouse Mountain.
Yeah.
Seymour driving to get up there. One of the nature of courses that are at the tops of mountains start to make them extremely physical. I actually have some physical limitations that I can hide quite well, but they will reveal themselves when I get into the mountaintop courses.
Right.
So I would hope and ask that we could bring the course closer to the community to allow kids, families, and just making it more available to be able to access. So there are some mountaintop courses out there.
And my second question would be, is this a regional? Is this are you thinking that this is a regional facility?
This is what we're proposing is something that the District of North Vancouver could champion, could own. It's District of North Vancouver, but I can share with you in the region, there's only, you have to drive 50 kilometers to find an 18-hole course.
So it would be a regional draw.
It would be a regional draw. You would have a lot of interest from Vancouver, from Burnaby, from East Van, from across the North Shore, from guests, people visiting the community as well. I mean, it's a global destination as it is, and this is one more activity for our guests to experience while
I
they're here.
appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very welcome.
We've also gone hat in hand, to Cyprus as well.
Yeah.
But we didn't get really much of a response from them.
West Van?
Not West Van, Capilano University, other places where we thought we could do a partnership.
Metro.
The association has made some efforts to see, and we continue to make those efforts because I wouldn't say desperate, but we really want this to happen.
The District of North Vancouver is one of the largest municipalities in the region, and it happens to be one of the only ones that does not have a disc golf course. The fact that we don't have one in this 50-kilometer radius.
Does Burnaby have one?
They do 9-hole course. It's a half-hour drive from here, which means my daughter can't go, her friends aren't going to go, kids aren't going to go.
Right.
That's a half-hour drive when there's no traffic.
Right. I don't know anything about traffic.
Robert Burnaby Park, it's just off of Gallardi. You'll drive right past it if you look the right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. The mayor's letting me chat with you, and he doesn't want me to anymore. So thank you very much. And I thank you for allowing the amendment to wait until the needs assessment is to allow it to inform this use. We are doing a process right now to look at the needs of the recreational community. And I think the delegation, you said that we are the playground for Metro Vancouver, and boy, are we ever. We have a long list of wants, beach volleyball, indoor skateboard parks, more advanced trails for mountain bikers, We have a plethora of requests from different groups wanting to activate. Mountain climbing is a new one. Cliff climbing is a new one. So it's a very challenging place to be in. Burnaby, for instance, is one of the fastest growing municipalities in the region. They are building, they think they just approved a 76-story tower. They have very, outlying areas for accessibility, but a lot of people from Vancouver and Burnaby cross the bridge and come specifically into Lynn Valley or the Seymour to recreate. Even driving to West Van is challenging. So we have a lot of pressure and a lot of cost to maintain those mountain bike trails. For instance, we partner with North Shore Mountain Bike Association, but it's still a huge challenge and cost. We put $500,000 in just on the trail to quarry rock because we had to prevent some erosion in certain areas. It's a lot of money. So we're up against a lot. We had a 7.5% or 7.25% tax increase last year. We're wanting to get that down. So I want to wait to see what this needs assessment. I want to be honest with you. I want to see what this needs assessment is going to show in regards to what we need and what we want and what we'd like. And I think those are the questions as elected officials looking at our budget. We have to ask ourselves for everything. What is the priority? It doesn't mean that this won't go forward. It doesn't mean that it will go forward. It just means that we have to have another round of discussion to look at those priorities. And so I thank you for bringing the delegation forward and telling us about disc golf. It is hard to fathom when I look at this other picture in the report of two little kids throwing a golf into a basket on a big lawn. Why we're looking at $500,000. I find that just way too rich. And I think that's part of our problem sometimes is we like the platinum model of everything. I'll just take my other 2 minutes if I can there a little. We also have quite a significant issue with having the facilities to accommodate all the people that want to come build it, and they will come. It happens all the time. And we've got areas of the municipality, and I think I spoke about this in a previous comment. We've got trails that are being cut that are not sanctioned trails. People are going into the backcountry and they're just building the trails on their own without asking anybody. We did have an area clear cut that was the size of a football field. We've had a climbing group cut down trees within the boundaries of Grouse Mountain in the Metro Vancouver Grouse Grind. They just cut them down because they wanted to climb the cliff. So thanks for coming forward and asking instead of just doing. But those are the big challenges that we're faced with, and it's very difficult. I sit on Metro Vancouver Parks, and the mayor sits on the Water District, and the Water District actually governs the Lower Seymour Conservation Reserve. And I think I'm going to actually be talking to those staff in those areas, because this might be something that might be appropriate in those areas. I suspect that it just needs to be in North Vancouver. It doesn't really matter what plot of land, BC Parks, or, we've got lots of overlapping jurisdictions in this municipality. I think it certainly, reflects an opportunity to ask that question of Metro and see if there is an interest in looking at it. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Thanks very much.
There you go. The wastewater treatment plant isn't off the table there.
Well, it's not anymore.
Councillor Ma, your comments.
It's hard to follow Councillor Murray sometimes. But I just want to add my voice of support. I do support initiatives that get people out in the district and be active. I'm glad that Councillor Back made the amendment to ensure that this motion is consistent with staff's current efforts regarding the couple of documents that they're preparing right now. I don't think it should take a lot of additional staff resources to also include disc golf in their analysis. So I will support the amended motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Yeah, I think that this is, we definitely want, one of the other mottos I use all the time is that we want to be a safe, clean, compassionate, family-friendly community with a close connection to nature. And in part, it's the barrier-free aspect of it, that you can keep it low cost, is something that definitely attracts me to this as an option. And it's also relatively all ages accessible, assuming you pick the right spots that aren't too intense. With the cost issue, it's very hard for the municipality to contract at a competitive level. So anything that we can do to multiply what can be done through volunteer work, that's something we're very interested in. One example I'll give you is that I tried to add a 4th flagpole out front of District Hall so we could have a guest flagpole, and just one flagpole came back at $13,000 as a proposal. $13,000. I declined to put a 4th one, so we just take down our flag and put the guest flag up on that one pole. But when the municipality builds infrastructure, we do it through BC bid process, and sometimes it doesn't come back as the most competitive numbers. And so I actually don't think the $250,000 end of it is anywhere close to out of line. Well, at $500,000, I want a hot dog cart at the turn, but we'll have to see. So I'll be supportive of the motion and look forward to the discussion we can have once we have all the information present. So I don't see any further speakers on the matter. Prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item up for discussion is item 8.7. This is the council motion report of Councillor Back. Councillor Back, I'm assuming you're moving. Is there a seconder for the report of the Lynn Valley Youth Center space? Councillor Pope. Okay. Councillor Back, your comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is really in response to a recent letter that we received from the Lynn Valley Community Association with regards to historical council discussions around a youth center in Lynn Valley. Sounds as though these discussions started over 20 years ago, and I think several of us around the table have probably heard, some of these discussions and what was promised back in the day to the community and with regards to a youth center in Lynn Valley. So really the purpose of this motion tonight is really just to bring the topic back so that it can be looked at again. The ask of staff is really just to provide a history of previous council discussions and financial commitments that were made around a youth center in Lynn Valley. And as we look to some future developments, as we look to refurbish the Karen Magnuson Rec Center and facilities like this, just to potentially take another look at a youth center as part of that. So that's really it. It's fairly straightforward. I just wanted to bring the topic back because it has been talked about over the years, but not recently and not in my time on council. And we have just recently, had an ask from the Community Association to do just that.
Thank you. Councillor Pope, do you have additional comments as a seconder?
I do. Thank you. I'm going to support this motion because I'm really concerned about what happened to this money and where it is and where it went. I don't understand how we can have this money sitting in the pot and it was never activated. So from that perspective alone, I am in favor of this motion. I do have a few comments on the validity of a youth center, though. I mean, I really believe that a youth center was valuable 20 years ago when this was first proposed. But as the mother of a teenager who's now on the back end of that, I think that the funny thing about youth centers today is youth don't go to them. They might early on, like 13, 14, but as they get older, they're like way too cool to go to a youth center. They want to go to their friends' houses or other places that aren't being overseen by an adult or pre-programmed by, an adult, that kind of thing. But having said that, I think that there are so many other ways that we could try to engage youth in this community. And I really like some of the things the city of Vancouver is doing, for example, with bringing in youth workers who work with youth about what they want, what kinds of events they might like to have, and then creating those events and making them happen, kind of thing. So they pay those youth workers, and maybe we could re-envision a youth center, along those lines at some point, depending on how this goes with the report that's coming back. But for now, I totally support this and look forward to receiving that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Yeah, I don't disagree with Councillor Pope's perspective. Certainly when we were talking about this youth center in 1996, that's when the referendum came forward. It was $25 million. And it had money that was spread across the district. It passed by like 2%. The Sport Council were the big ones that were pushing the referendum support. It was looking at Parkgate, the Youth Center in Lynn Valley, Norgate Field House, the library. There was a number of scenarios, nearly 30 years ago, $25 million, you got all that. Like it was, God, it's crazy to even think like that now. And for Norgate, the field house, and for the youth center, we couldn't find the right location to put the field house. There was never a good spot in Norgate to put a field house. We tried so many times to deal with it, and it just never worked. And the youth center, the amount of money was just way too low. It just never, we talked about it multiple times. We had different developers come forward trying to fit it in, and the money just wasn't there to build something. I know, and I'm looking at Mr. Hunter here from the Rec Commission. He's been sitting there patiently all evening. And I don't know if you have any comments around the youth center. Maybe you could just come up to the staff table. If you have any comments about the design that we put into the youth center at Delbrook versus the one that we built at Parkgate. When we built the Parkgate Youth Center, it was quite big. We had a section of the gym that could be dedicated to the center. It had access. But then when we went to when we built Delbrook, the youth center was quite small. And I think for the same reasons Councillor Pope pointed out, that youth were just, living differently. They had these, they don't walk like we used to. They just talk on these things. So I just ask you if you have any comments, Mr. Hunter, in regards to youth centers and how they're looked at through the Recreation Commission's eyes.
Thanks for your question, and through the mayor to Councillor Murray. I think there's a variety of different models, and certainly that's changed over time. And I think to Councillor Pope's point as well, the days of the standalone center or a standalone facility are probably gone. And I think the future model again would be similar to Delbrook, where it's integrated into a larger center. And I think that would be the intention, likely with Karen Magnuson. And I think as Councillor Back's report notes, we are in those early stages of looking at what sort of the functional programming of a future building would be, and a multi-purpose space that could have focused for youth would be something that is certainly being considered. And that way you've got a space that's appealing for youth, where they feel comfortable, but it can also outside of sort of traditional youth center hours, it can be used for other forms of programming. And in terms of I did see an update from staff on sort of current usage in centers, and it's certainly it's varied, but increasingly it's the preteens that are really seeing an uptick in usage for these centers. And as you know, as they get older, they may go off and do other things, and they have more opportunities to other things. But there certainly is demand. It's just that it shifted a little bit, I think, as the communities evolved.
Right. So maybe this motion needs to be more about how we can incorporate some sort of something, for youth in Lynn Valley. Because, the history, I think, the history is just, there was no money, there wasn't enough money ever to do it. And there wasn't, I know the Lynn Valley Community Association worked so hard as they worked on the library to get the library. There always seemed to be a roadblock in regards to it going forward. So now maybe what are the opportunities for youth? I know my son, so in Deep Cove, the Raven Pub, pubs are open for young people. And I think he'd probably just like to go in there and have a beer, but he's only 17, so he has to wait 2 more years. But on the basement of the pub, they've moved the pub upstairs, and the downstairs is sort of available. And up until I think it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, young people can go in there and grab a pizza and a Coke, and there's, pinball machines and stuff like that. And he's actually called the management and said, could you put a pool table in? They took out the fireplace sadly, but could you put a pool table in? We would love to come there, because their only place to go now is the parks. They're down on the beach or in the parks. There's really no place for them to go. And I think there would be, there would be an interest in having something that they could do on those Friday and Saturday nights, not always, especially in the winter, right? So I'd just be more interested, not so much the history of what happened, the discussions, but more about where is that money, Rick, by the way? Do we know where that money is that was borrowed through the referendum? Where is it sitting?
It's through your worship to Councillor Murray. It is set aside in a reserve fund, and it's part of the annual audit. It's not set aside for any other purpose than that.
And what's the total amount?
168,000. I think it was 268,000 in the
Right.
report. Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, I would be more interested in what we can use that money for now, and then how we could incorporate something in the future into a new Karen Magnuson when that comes. And even as we replace Ron Andrews, what are some of the ideas around youth, the trends that we'll embark on when we get to that place of rethinking those facilities?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. So I have some history with this, in that when it was originally proposed, they were going to at first put it in the 1300 block of Frederick Road in the parking lot of the rec center. The neighborhood came out absolutely opposed to that location, because there had been quite a few theft from auto incidents and some issues in the neighborhood, parties late at night, which arguably is a reason for a youth center, but at the same time, it was something that the neighborhood was not happy with. And so as an alternative, what happened was they took the room on the west side of Cardinal Hall, the Lynn Valley Rec Center there, and converted it into a youth room space, put some couches in, put some TVs in. And I actually happened to, because I worked for Electronic Arts, I happened to get some video game systems and a whole bunch of video games put in there, because I lived in the neighborhood at the time. And so we did put a whole bunch into it at the time. And then after a year, nobody was using it. It wasn't receiving programming necessarily from there. And it just wasn't a popular place to go and hang out. And it wasn't in great repair. And so then the next step was to talk about potentially putting it into development. And then after that, it was to put it in the library, which was opposed by the community association who wrote this letter. They were opposed to it being put into the library. A compromise was that some money was set aside to hire a youth librarian in order to try to engage youth in that space. And so it has a challenged past of finding consensus. Where it was left was that it would be, we saw the success of the Parkgate model, where you have the skateboard park right there, a gymnasium space, and then the youth center actually functions relatively well because it can use those extra areas. And so then the idea was that we would sort of earmark the space between the lacrosse box and the Karen Magnuson facility. And the next time we updated the facility, we'd look at building a youth center that could take advantage of that and maybe put some skate infrastructure into the space as well. So that's kind of, my history on it. I was very challenged by the tone of this letter that came from the CA, and obviously I will be going to the annual general meeting for the CA and addressing that with them. But it also doesn't catch the fact that there's a $42 million brand new high school that has youth lounge areas with couches and food service and everything all integrated into the high school. Play spaces outside, Wi-Fi set up throughout the facility for those kinds of purposes. And so it's ignoring something that actually is extremely popular with the youth in the neighborhood, because you go by the school and it's busy into the evening because the spaces are so great. So 268,000 is not going to be enough to address that. There's no question further south in Lynn Valley as we do an upgrade to Karen Magnuson that we need to incorporate youth appropriate spaces into there. But I'd actually say there's actually been a fair amount delivered for youth in Lynn Valley. Not enough, but there has been a fair amount. New Lynn Valley Elementary School, new Argyle School with amazing social spaces for the kids throughout. What we were contemplating, which was literally going to be an ATCO trailer, mobile trailer dropped in the parking lot, we've already got way beyond that in terms of infrastructure in the community. But I still want to see something further south, maybe in and around the Karen Magnuson facility. But I'll be supportive of the motion. Next, I've got first-time speaker, Councillor Forbes, followed by Councillor Back.
Thank you, Your Worship. I live on Kirkstone, so Karen Magnuson is right behind me. And I did bring this forward in the last term. I did come to finance and ask them about this and what we could do to get this moving. And quite simply, it wasn't enough money to get anything moving. And things have not gotten better, they've gotten worse. So it's substantially more. And the last I was involved actually was when it was still, Frederick was being discussed, but not being accepted, and possibility of Karen Magnuson Arena. I'm all in favor of this. I think Lynn Valley needs it. I think it may change, the scope of this might change, and it might change 5 years from now again. So whatever we propose or try to put together, I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that society is changing at a rather quick pace. But I do agree with you, Argyle has some beautiful facilities, and it just seems like a natural fit for now. And I know that Karen Magnuson is in the 10-year plan for redevelopment. So it's something that isn't that far off that we could look at it in the Karen Magnuson Arena if we do start doing the new development there, redoing the arena. But in the meantime, I agree with you. I was going to say as well that Argyle seems like a perfect place to have some kind of, so that you don't have youth out of, I mean, living near that arena, sometimes there are groups of teenagers that are wandering in the rain, in the dark, and they appear to have nowhere to go. And it just seems that we need to give them a purpose and a place to go to meet. So I would fully back looking into if we can do anything with Argyle in the meantime. Thank you.
Councillor Back, second time.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Thank you, Council. I achieved what I wanted to tonight, which is really just to have a discussion about this. I think there's been some interesting conversation around the table about how the role of a youth center is changing. And so I'm happy with just looking at some broader options for youth in Lynn Valley, and maybe that money can go a lot further to some different ideas. And in terms of who's using the youth centers, I think about the dances that Parkgate held for preteens. I know those were very popular with my nieces when they were that age. So, you know, maybe there's different things that we need to be looking at for youth in Lynn Valley. But I'm glad that we could have the conversation, and hopefully we can loop back to the community association and update them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I see Councillors Hanson and Ma. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for Councillor Back for bringing forward and all the discussion around the table. Observation I would make is, I mean, I'm struck by the fact that 175,000 24 years ago, has now become 268,000. You think of the diminishment of purchasing power of that sum of money over that time. I don't think it's clear. It's clear on this report and on a little reflection that that's just not a good place to have money sitting. So clearly we should do something with that that serves the community better than having that money depreciate and lose its purchasing power in a bank account. Observation.
Thank you. Councillor Ma.
Thank you. You know, when I first read this, I was very supportive. You know, I support the intent of the original motion. So thank you, Councillor Back. You know, I have a daughter, she's 15, and, you know, she keeps active. And by doing that, she stays healthy and she has a good friend network. I think she's very fortunate to play a lot of sports and be involved in the community. Sometimes playing sports can get pretty expensive. So when I first looked at this report, you know, having a center for students to go to, or, you know, a youth to go to was great. But, you know, listening to all this feedback that, you know, maybe it's shifted. So thank you for that feedback. But I'm still supportive of having programming or place for youth. So at this point, is this motion going to be amended, or is it standing as is? So I just want to get some clarity on that.
I have an amendment I could propose if you want. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to report back on the history. What are you?
I think we just did the history.
Yeah. Okay, so the floor is still yours. I'm happy to come back for you for amendment. Are you proposing an amendment?
I'm just asking because I'm not sure where it stands right now. Like, to me, as Councilor Murray said, we've gotten a high level history. And so that's one point. The second point is the need for a standalone building, youth center, may have shifted. So I'm just unsure if this motion is still on the table or is there going to be an amendment. So that's what I'm asking.
I'm going to look to staff first before, you know, when you read this motion, does it give you enough room to report back on the, you know, potential for incorporating a facility in future, or is it just simply too rigid in that it's saying it's looking at the history entirely? Whoever wants to jump, Mr. Hunter. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think council's direction is clear, and certainly from MVRC's perspective, we would be continuing to look for opportunities to be able to support youth through the functional programming of Karen Magnuson. And that's work that's ongoing. And when it's at a stage we can bring it forward to council for consideration, and that'll be afterwards we get some direction out of the recreational support facility plan. We'll bring that forward and council will be able to provide feedback on that.
Satisfactory, or do you want to amend the motion? Okay. Okay. Councillor Forbes, did you have additional comments?
I'd just like to add in that you will look at a standalone and see how it fits in, but in the meantime, that we approach maybe the school board and ask them if we can make some sort of arrangement for a youth drop-in even at Argyle, if we can ask the question.
Yeah, I just want to be clear about one thing, that they're not reporting back on a standalone facility, that they'd be reporting back on what a modern facility may look like in association with the needs assessment plan.
Okay.
But as far as consulting with the school district to see if there's a way to add additional uses to an existing school facility, I think that's within your bailiwick. I mean, we've contracted spaces out of the schools before. Is that enough direction, or do you want a motion?
I think that's sufficient, Your Worship.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Pope.
A little bit murky to me.
Okay.
And I wonder if we can't sharpen it a little bit so that we're asking staff to come back basically with ways this money could be spent to enhance youth experiences in Lynn Valley or something to that effect.
I think it's probably appropriate to just put that in an amendment and clear up that direction. So I don't know if you've got to the clerk, do you have the essence of what was just added, that they report back on how that 268,000 could be used to support youth in Lynn Valley? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Thank you, through your worship. Yes, just to clarify, and that staff report back on how that 268,000 can be used to enhance youth support in Lynn Valley, correct?
Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Want those friendly, or is it sufficient enough you want to get a motion?
I think it's sufficient. We can just do it.
If that's accepted by the mover?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ma, do you have additional comments?
Just a bit about, it's great that we're using this money for the Lynn Valley community, but do we want to also include something about the future to make sure that when they are looking at Karen Magnuson and Ron Andrews, that they look at incorporating youth programming, or is that covered, or is that understood whenever they do the new center?
Ron Andrews already has a youth space in between it and Canlan Ice Supports. And so it's Lynn Valley that's missing the youth space.
Okay, so going back.
The bottom of Cap Road, I guess, doesn't really have a youth specific. We've tried to make the living lounge area for families generally, but it's not programmed youth space.
But Karen Magnuson will be at least 10 years out.
Not at least, but it's, yeah. There are elements of that building that are in, that need to be on our radar. Yeah.
See what staff brings back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything, it just simply points out what we could apply it towards, and that's a future council discussion. So, full question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much, council. Okay, we have completed the business of the meeting, but before I ask for adjournment, some nights when we finish a little bit early, we do have an opportunity for reports. Checking at the CAO, do you have acting CAO, do you have any reports that you'd like to make?
I have nothing.
Okay. Would any of the members of council, is this a fresh speakers list?
No, that was for me.
Okay, Councillor Murray and Councillor Ma. Councillor Murray, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Well, we've had a busy, busy September and probably a busy October too. Many of us attended the UBCM convention in Vancouver, Union of British Columbia Municipalities. We had two resolutions on the floor. One passed, one failed. Our bear motion failed, sadly, and we really did notice during the failure that it was very evident that it was because the small communities and the big cities have very different experiences with bears. And I brought it up with our Metro Vancouver Councillor Craig Hodge from Coquitlam in regards to finding a way. There were many resolutions that failed because the majority of the attendees at the UBCM were from smaller communities, and the city resolutions didn't fare very well. So we did talk, I've talked to two representatives from UBCM and Metro, and to say that there's got to be a way to deal with this, because we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in my opinion, and we need to look at how we're impacted by some of these resolutions and how small communities are impacted by them. I also attended with many members of council, again, the walking tour with the Heritage Advisory Committee, and I was walking around Lynn Valley and talking about sort of historic buildings and some of the history. It was very informative. It was a very good evening. We had a council of council meetings where we attended, and we talked. The entire event was talking about our sewage treatment plant and the challenges behind that. And I think that's it for me.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Ma, any reports?
Yes. October is Library Month in Canada. So it's a great time to shine a light on our amazing library system. The North Van District Public Library is a community cornerstone, providing essential resources and services to people of all ages, stages, interests, and background, as they've been doing this for over 60 years. With over 1.2 million in-person or online visits each year, our libraries remain free, familiar, and fun, and they consistently rank among the top 2 libraries in all of BC for circulation per capita. Our libraries are great equalizers. They provide open access to information, technology, and tools for all people. And Library Month is the perfect opportunity to recognize and celebrate our library system lasting impact on our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ma. Councillor Forbes.
Well, I'd just like to say I went to all the places that Councillor Murray went to. But I would like to say, yeah, the bear cub conflict resolution that had passed unanimously here, unanimously in Lions Bay, and unanimously in a number of other municipalities. It was really, really evident on the voting of a lot of the motions, not just that one, that it was big city, small town. And you could see that coming. And so I appreciate Councillor Murray has brought it to the attention of UBCM to maybe something could be done about that. It was defeated, but we're not done. And it did achieve good. I was contacted by a lot of people all over the British Columbia, all over the province, about issues that had happened in their area and what they could do and what was Bear Smart. We now are Bear Smart, which we just got. I think we were doing it for many, many years. It's just we got the official designation. But so a lot of people are a lot more aware of those Bear Smart program and what they can do in their area as well. I was very disappointed that it didn't pass because I saw the resolution as being a win-win-win for the bears, the conservation officers, and for the public. But we'll come back another day. Thank you.
Councillor Forbes. I appreciate Councillor Ma mentioning Library Month. And I did just want to report out that through the Summer Reading Club program this year, we had 3,800 kids in the District of North Vancouver participate in the Summer Reading Club. We have the highest per capita participation in the entire province of BC. And the other record we should be very proud of and shout from the hilltops is that our circulation and utilization of the library is also the highest in BC. And so we have a community that definitely values literacy and supports it. And it's such a great opportunity to show the kids that they're supported in it and their parents are supported and encouraging them. So it's a great program. I was very happy to participate with MLA Chant on the last day where we gave out another 290 medals. So in total about almost 800 medals for kids who fully completed the program over the course of the summer. And it was so great to have them all come out. There's a very important report that I would like to address. And I think it's actually been a very, very big week for the District of North Vancouver and the North Shore when it comes to transit. So we've been engaged in a campaign recently called Access Awareness and Access for Everyone. And this is a campaign by TransLink partnered up with Earnscliffe to make sure that the provincial and federal government are considering how they need to be supporters of transit services. And this, in the last 2 weeks, we've now had commitments from all 3 major parties within the provincial election to support the transit offerings that we've put into the Access for Everyone plan, which includes the rapid transit connections, the extension of the R2 out to Metrotown, and the BC Conservative Party went one step further and actually said they support the replacement of the Second House Bridge. The NDP was quite specific that the $600 million deficit that TransLink finds itself in, that they will help us directly work with to solve that financial challenge and acknowledge that you can't have affordable housing in a modern, urban area without transit as the backbone. And then the Conservative Party actually exactly took our wording from our proposal and put that into their platform, that we're going to fix the broken system of funding transit. And so it was just a very encouraging week to hear that the issues we've been raising on transit to the North Shore have now been accepted by the three major parties, and we should be able to move forward with whoever is elected going forward to make sure that transit is the backbone of transportation on the North Shore. So I just wanted to share that in public, that's a very excellent revelation, because we weren't joking. There was no brinksmanship in this. We have a funding deficit for transit that would have caused us to have a massive reduction in services. And I got to tell you, as a North Shore community, we would have been one of the ones hit hardest in it, because the communities that already have SkyTrain would have continued on with a large amount of their services. And so as one of the communities that doesn't have that higher rapid transit level service, we would have been a big part of the cuts that would have been made. And so this is an incredible commitment from the different parties. And I look forward to sitting down and meeting with them after the election, whoever forms government, to make sure that North Shore transit priorities are front and center going forward. Anybody else like to make a report? Accepted. Thank you very much to the staff for preparing the reports for our consideration today, although about half of them were from council. So that's thank you, council, for preparing the reports for our consideration as well. Thank you to members of the public for participating in our evening. Everybody have a fantastic week. Good night.